It is Monday, the 3rd of March. I hope everyone's doing okay. We're on a pretty wild ride at the moment. So yesterday, of course, we had the big bounce from Trump announcement of a strategic crypto reserve, naming specific tickers. And that was yesterday, Sunday. And here we are, Monday, with tariffs back. He's just announced 25% tariffs for Canada and Mexico that go into effect tomorrow. For me, I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand spending months negotiating a trade agreement with your biggest trading partners and then not having a kind of resolution mechanism, just immediate insta tariffs. Crazy. But I'm not the president. Let's not get into that. Let's talk about what that's doing to the broader market, because if we take a look, we've been in this sideways trading range basically since November. We made a swing low end of November, swing low at this support level here in November and January, and here we are breaking it today with this tariff news. Got a little bit of a triple top. Whenever you get a sideways double top trading range like this and you break the lows of it, you tend to go twice the distance. That's how they work with these double tops. So your double top target is going to be, if we go twice this distance, is going to be down here to around 5,500. And 5,500 in this S&P is quite an interesting level, because if we go all the way back and look at this big swing that we've done since the low that we made after we made the last big correction, which was back in 2022. If I look to see from this 2022 low where this 236 fib is, that's going to be exactly where our target is. So 5,534. Now it's not going to drop in a straight line. We're likely to attempt a pretty good bounce from this daily 200 moving average first time we come back to it, very similar to what we did here in 2023. Bounce from the 200 moving average, continue lower, but the measured move target for this chart pattern is 5,500, and we're seeing pretty similar nasty breakdowns across US indexes. Now this might just be a temporary look underneath these tariffs. Sometimes, the last couple of times it got resolved very quickly, but if they don't this time, then we've got targets much lower. If we take a look at the S&P Toronto Stock Exchange, you can see in this one we double topped in December and then this end of January high. And when you do this double top, so you usually have an equal measure move. So you measure from this high to this low, from this high. Now normally you'd be looking at the bottom of the range, just like we are in this S&P. But if we do this here for the Toronto Stock Exchange, you can see we attempted a bounce at this level where the 61.8, the swing is 61.8 of the first swing. So we can say that in this one, if we break it, if this tariff issue isn't resolved very quickly as it was last time, and that's at 24,891, then our next support is down here at 24,200 in this TSX. Now, why am I talking about these indexes? Honestly, because they are having a really strong effect on crypto and risk assets and dragging them down. The only thing that's going up are European defense stocks and gold. In gold, we had this big level. If I look at this on the monthly close in on the end of February was this 2,856 level. It was a big fib target for me, and if we hold above it, I think our next upside is 3,250, and I was expecting, having closed above it, to come back and find some support from this level, and this is exactly what we've done, and we are turning higher from here. So for me, short term, we've pulled back to ideal support. This is the first bounce. I think in gold, you can still buy pullbacks, and 3,250 is likely where we go next. There is going to be a little bit of a wobble level, I think, around 3,000 when we retest these highs. It's not going to go in a straight line, but keep buying pullbacks in gold. I do think this has more upside to come. So that's bigger macro picture that we are in. So let's talk about the four tickers that Trump mentioned for this Bitcoin reserve. Now, if we look at where we are in Bitcoin, I said that from this high to this low, we've done a textbook 50% retrace, equal measured move, and back to this 200 moving average. That normally is very bullish, a very bullish reversal pattern, bullish or bearish. Bearish if you do it the other way up, obviously. But we've had our first bounce off the low, or wave one if you like, and now we're seeing a really deep retrace. I do think that this was a really good support zone, particularly for Bitcoin. And so this pullback, I think, is a buying opportunity as long as the world doesn't end, you know. And I am expecting still another leg higher in Bitcoin. Now, normally, I'd put my fibs on like this from this high to low, and I would say, wow, this back test to this 236 fib, really. Because I think of fibs, if I draw Fibonacci retrace levels like a step ladder, right? So if you climb above one, you're expecting it. That I've got this 38.2 missing here. I need to draw some more in here. Here we go. Then if you break it, then you're going back to the next one. But one thing we can also say from this fib pattern that we made in Bitcoin, from this high to low, we reversed at a big 50% level. So from this high to low, we retraced 50%. Then you would normally expect it to kind of do a rough 50% the other way. That's just how these mean reverting markets, we're a little bit underneath it. For me, though, we are turning back higher again if we recover 86,700, which is 50% going the other way. And I do think this little shakeout, at some point, I do think it will make a base and we will see another leg higher. If we don't, what's very typical in crypto is, unfortunately, a really nasty retrace, full retrace of the lows or double bottoms. And what crypto tends to do a lot is a swing failure. So it'll make a low and then do a really deep retrace and retest these lows. And sometimes in crypto, you know, just the retest is the retest. So we've still got the crypto conference at the end of the week. We still have really kind of bullish macro factors, particularly for Bitcoin, coming at the end of this week. And I would be very surprised if we didn't see another leg of bounce, at least from these crypto pairs that did so well on Sunday. And so, you know, we could also argue that an awful lot of institutional players completely missed out on this move by announcing it on Sunday, which is really a liquid in crypto markets. None of the ETFs were open, none of the futures. And so they have pulled the price back all the way to where this kind of news came from. We've retraced basically all of Sunday's move. So now, potentially, we could see our next leg higher from here. So that's the fib pattern I'm looking at. And I think that this actually is quite an interesting bounce level. Haven't quite got the price action yet. I'm looking at this on lower time frames, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if we start a bigger bounce from here. First sign that we have bottomed. Short term, even short term, I use these fib levels. 87,500, I think, above there would see perhaps our next leg higher, swing higher beginning. Let's talk about some of the others as well, because Solana was a really saw a really big move, and we've literally retraced all of the big move in Solana. Do I still think that we will attempt another leg higher from here in Solana? We are underneath, you know, a lot of pretty nasty daily moving averages, and the first time we come back to test them, quite often it can be quite tough resistance. But I am still expecting another leg higher in Solana. I am still expecting to at least retrace 50% of this move on the news that we get at the end of this week, or at least, you know, at least back to 190, I think, from here. And so again, this is something I would be watching on lower time frames and look for the next swing higher. So basically, here's our first ABC, here's our three-wave pullback, and I'm looking for another leg higher. Two levels that I'm looking for are 190 and 210 in Solana. It may be just like a lot of other crypto this week, that we end up doing a bigger double bottom. If we do that in Solana, I kind of, you know, then if you've got a double bottom, then you've got a much bigger target. We will go twice this move if we do that and break the highs. And so, you know, then we can talk about 230 on a bounce. So it's just a matter of waiting for that market to turn higher again and this shakeout to be over. We can talk about some fib patterns in some of the other markets that he's mentioned, the tickers. So first one is, let's take everything off. So if we measure from the high in Ripple, the high that we made in January to the low that we made at the beginning of February, we did one of those ABC equal measured moves to a 786 fib level. And when you do that, that's called a Gartley pattern. Your first swing is to a 61.8, your second swing is to a 786 fib. Look, here it is. If I draw it in from this high to this low. So this is our Gartley pattern zone at 3 here. So we did reverse at it. When you reverse at a 786 fib and you get underneath the 61.8, your first target is usually, let's put that back, the 38.2. So this was, I was expecting this to be a bounce level. In other words, we get down there in 3 waves, but instead we've dropped like a rock and done it in one. So 786 to a 38.2 fib retrace back test is a very common support level. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Ripple bounces from here and we bounce back into the middle and see what happens there. So I'm going to tidy up this chart and say that here we are at the hourly, back testing the hourly 200 moving average. We've hit our first target. I really am expecting us to at least bounce back to the middle of this range and potentially keep going. We've got 4 more days until this crypto conference announcement happens. It's not until Friday, and there's a lot that can happen in between now and then. Obviously, Bitcoin is definitely leading the way, but for me, this is a level where I do think Ripple should bounce tonight. So, you know, all of these, let's talk about ETH, which is the other one that they mentioned. And ETH is teetering right on key support. If we go out to the weekly, you can see if we draw in a trend line from the 2022 lows, this was the trend line that we bounced from really twice this month, and here we are retesting it. It's also the high, swing high from April last year, swing lows here from the end of the year, December, January, and a pretty important then support and resistance level in Ethereum. Really, we could argue we've been in a sideways range since March of last year. This was the double top high, and here we are retesting the low of this range. For the first time, though, it's a little less encouraging being underneath this weekly 200 moving average. You can see here, ever since we went into this sideways range back in 2022, this weekly 200 moving average has been support and resistance. Resistance when we were underneath it, and it's taken a little bit of a fight to get back above it a couple of times. Clearly, we've failed so far today and over the weekend, but that's going to be, for me, the sign that we've recovered and we are on our way back up again. And that weekly 200 moving average in ETH is at 2,475. So ETH really likes these kind of round numbers. And when you have a sideways range like this, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of a false breakdown, potentially test of this 2,000 level in ETH, but I'm looking for it to hold. We'll see. If we don't, obviously, with this double top and this breakdown, we potentially have a much bigger bearish pattern going on here, and then I would say argue we measure from the high here in 2021 to this low and say that we're breaking down, and this is our A, B, C, and in which case our first target is going to be where this swing is 61.8 of this first swing, which would give us a target down here at 1,639 in ETH if these lows and this support resistance doesn't hold. So potentially we have got further to fall. It's pretty key support for ETH, this one. So everything else, I would argue, is at a really good place to bounce. Ripple is at a really good place to bounce. Bitcoin is at a really good place to bounce. If we take a look at where we are in Bitcoin CME futures, we've so close, such a smidge, within a smidge of filling this gap, this $10,000 gap higher we had in Bitcoin CME futures. So let's put them back to where they are missed out on the rally. This is kind of where I would expect us to at least attempt a reversal and another leg higher here. So I know it looks pretty gloomy looking across the board that everything is going on, and to be honest, if everything else keeps collapsing, then this could too. But for me, this is one of those levels where I think we should have a go at another swing higher. Good luck. Let me know if there's anything